First of all, middle school sucks for everybody. We're all going through puberty. We're all manic, getting into our feelings. And this is like where you become one of the three Bs in middle school. Either you are the bullied, the bullier, or the bystander. All right, guys, if you are listening in, welcome back to Passenger Seat Parlay. I am your host, Valereywitha. And yeah, these clips have been going crazy. Everyone's DMing me asking for, when's this episode dropping? I kind of want to set the scene and prepare you guys to introduce a new segment on the podcast called Uncomfortably Black. This segment is going to be co-hosted with my best friend, Leshell, where we individually recount our similar yet different perspectives of growing up in the suburban town of Wellington. 568 stand up. Okay? So close your eyes, get in the car, and visualize. Now, the year is 2002, starting off middle school at 203 pounds. Yes, I was 5'6", 203. And again, my stature, I've always been tall, so I'm tall. I don't look as heavy as I am. And I kind of grew. So in middle school, I was 5'6" in sixth grade, 5'7" in seventh, and 5'8" and so on. I didn't stop growing until around ninth grade. I got to my height now, which is 5'9". So that goes to say middle school was just a year full of change. In fact, 2002, sixth grade was just change after change after change. And baby, I'm a Taurus. One thing about Tauruses is we do not like change. We like stability. We like a routine. And I'm ADHD. I need a routine. I need my systems in place. So that year was full of change. New school, new neighborhood, new friends, new hormones, new feelings. Oh my God. Again, middle school sucked. I don't care sixth grade sucked because seventh and eighth wasn't that too bad. So to go back into my origin story. So growing up, I had all male siblings and cousins who were around my age group. Apart from my mother, I never really had encounters with other girls unless if I was in school. So before moving to Wellington, I lived a little farther east in Lantana. But yet my school was still, predominantly, I cannot talk right now. My school was still predominantly white. However, I did encounter a few different races as well there. We had a little dash of Spanish, a little dash of Asian, not a lot of Indian friends. I didn't make any Indian friends until I moved out to Wellington. I don't know, but we had all the flavors, almost. I low-key remember having this subconscious, goal as a young 6-year-old saying, I wanted to make a friend out of every character of the Magic School Bus. I had a Ralphie. I was the Aisha, I low-key still kind of have this little dream to have, a friend who looks like every single character so we can cosplay. Low-key, I miss Frizzle, too. Pero I never found my Arnold. So if there's any male gingers who want to be my best friend, applications are open. Anyway, nonetheless, I've always had this yearning for sisterhood, seeing that I grew up with all boys. Just someone to play Barbies with who wasn't going to chew up the feet or wasn't going to turn my portable or who wasn't going to turn my life-size Barbie electric convertible into a skate ramp and, do ollies on it, crack it, nothing traumatizing like that. I wanted to have girls around, That being said, school was the primary place where I would have interaction with other little girls. Although I had my ups and downs in the area and trying to make friends, being the only chocolate señorita there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to go into all of these little itty bitty playground politics on a separate episode when I discuss some of the issues that I went through and challenges that I went through as a young child before the age of 11, 12-ish. But that's another episode, Politic Playgrounds. Look out for it. So anyway, that being said, although I found sisterhood in my white friends, I still yearned for friendship with little girls who look like me, who had my same hair texture, who, I can say, hey, do you watch Fresh Prince at night? Yeah, I do too. Not to say white girls don't watch Fresh Prince, but I don't know. Like, I wanted a friend. I wanted a sister. I mean, predominantly, if I could find another Haitian girl just like me who I can speak Creole with, that would have been ideal. I wanted a sister. So as I mentioned earlier in the clip, I was excited to go to this new school where there were more Black kids there. There was a mix. Like before at my other school, you still had your morenas and your little chocolate girls here and there, your Canadians, here and there, a little dash, a little Trinidadian or so, but it's like at this new school, there was like, it was visibly seen like, okay, there's more Black kids here. So I'm like, okay, cool. I could find me a little Black friend. We could finally I could finally find that sisterhood I'm looking for. Now, that year when I went to that school, I was finally introduced to a different type of Black American. When I say that out loud, it's like, I don't want to say a different type of Black American. It doesn't sit right with me, but this is what's coming out of my mouthpiece right now. So anyway, I'm going to insert some Caribbean context. So some of the biases in the Caribbean community is like Black Americans are lazy or uneducated or violent, the same rhetoric that you hear about Black people in the Black community, right? So those seeds of bias were there, but I never really paid attention to it. Because again, children are innocent. We don't really act on hate. It's something that's taught if it's nurtured, right? So I get to middle school. I'm around more Black kids. When I went to that middle school, it was Wellington Landings. And at that school, there are more Black kids who were from further out west, like in the Belglade, Pahokee, Clewiston area. Not so much Clewiston, but it was really Belglade and Pahokee. So the girls that I encountered who were from like the Belglade, Pahokee area, they did not like me. They did not like me on some Kendrick, some Kendrick type shit. They didn't like me. When they found out I was Haitian, baby, forget about it. It was over. Everybody hated Haitians in the 90s. Like, the way people would just say Haitian, it's like the hate in Haitian with a capital H. Like, forget about it. So, these group of Black girls, right? I want to say it was like 3 or 4 of them. They would, like try to, and mind you, these women, they're not women. I need to remember this story as the 12-year-old version of myself, or 11. So these girls, they were older than me. They were in the 8th grade. I guess once they noticed me, like in 6th grade, my mom would still dress me for school. If you grew up Haitian in the 90s and you had a traditional Haitian mom, like my mom would dress me up to the T's. I'd have patent leather shoes on, collared shirts. It was just very, if you know. So I remember one day they were like, what's your name? What's your name? Because I guess they got tired of just walking past me and trying to say stuff. So like one day they kind of like cornered me. And mind you, I had a 5'6" stature, 203 pounds, like I said, but I was so much a baby still. Very docile, very chill. Like that's just not my nature to be violent. So they cornered me and I got nervous and I was just like, damn, what is my name, bitch? And I'm thinking inside. And then that morning I was watching Rugrats eating cereal and I was like, Cynthia. They're like, oh, your name is Cynthia? Ugh, bye, Cynthia. And I was like, whew, coast clear. And I booked it. Now, I didn't run because at the end of the day, although I was very, shy at times, not confrontational, I was never pussy. And by the way, ain't nobody ever put their hands on me. Okay? Because honestly, and that I'll go into on the playground politics episode. Because at the end of the day, people will be vicious with their words all day before they are vicious with their hands. Because even bullies are in pain, Again, different episode. So, for weeks, these girls thought my name was Cynthia. And I remember, like, I'd be walking through the halls, switching classes, and I would hear someone saying, Cynthia, Cynthia, la, 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 like something annoying like that, just loud as fuck. And I'm like, damn, who's screaming like that? Like, I'm like, okay, da, da, da. But again, that's not my name. So, of course, it didn't affect me. It didn't bother me. And it wasn't triggered. Now, I believe it's around late September now. In Florida, we start school in mid-August. So they must have found out my real name through like a cousin of theirs, someone who was a classmate. So one day, in the morning, one of my rotations was in the portables. There were like this congested area in the back with 3 adjacent portables. This was my least favorite class, of course, right? I had a former classmate from my 5th grade class and his best friend. And this guy used to rag on me in 5th grade all the fucking time, right? So I'm like, of course, he's here. He's over there at Miss Sheen's portable. I'm in the other one adjacent from that. And every morning when I would wait, we would all line up, wait outside. They'd be like, oh, look at Valerie. She's so fat. Like, come on, bro. You've been saying the same joke since 2000 to 2001. It's about to be 2002, Papa. You know? So, of course, that was like the routine. Make fun of the black girl. But now, for some reason, I guess in the morning, I must have been early, right? And those group of girls happened to be walking by the portables. So it was as if they was waiting to see me that day because they just figured out my real name, right? So all the kids are, lining up, pulling up to the portables. Class is about to start. The bell's about to ring to start the day, right? So these girls see me, and then, she get her from like, ooh, oh, there's Val. And then, of course, in Mean Girl Antics, their version of the Timu Regina comes up. And I can't say Timu Regina because that ain't her. So their leader comes up. I remember she was like mahogany skin. She had a perm, crazy acne, and she had like these silver rimmed glasses. When I say my third eye remembers. And by the way, if anyone has a 2002 Wellington Landings yearbook, please DM me. Let's FaceTime because I need to go through because I need to find this girl's face and see if she's on welfare or something. Okay, that was mean. I'm sorry. That was for the 11-year-old. Now, back to the story. So they get me, right? They're like, oh, shit. There she go, type shit. I'm like, okay, I'm just minding my business. Da-da-da. This is the day. This is 2002. There's no Walkman. There's no cell phone. There's nothing to distract me. I don't have a book. I'm just sitting there waiting, just waiting patiently. Nothing to act like I can ignore this person. So they get me, right? They pull up and they're like, hey, your name's not Cynthia. It's Valerie with a V. And then they take the loser sign, right? And they flip it 45 degrees and plant it in the middle of their forehead. So now the L looks like a V. So they're like, you're Valerie with the V. Valerie with the V. And then they just have this loser sign sticking their tongues at me and shit. Now, mind you, this sounds all innocent, right? But then when they start going, Valerie with the V, asshole from 5th grade, I was like, oh, shit, fucking loser. Well, he didn't say fucking loser, but I don't think he said fucking loser, but I remember him holding up the L sign on his forehead. And then he got his follower friend to do it too. And then like the kids who were in my class just kind of turned around and looked at me. Some of them were laughing because it was just like this big, black, loud, belligerent woman in her Ebonics was just... Actually, was it Ebonics? I don't even want to say that because now I sound like Uncle Ruckus. This big black Jemima. That's how I felt at the moment. But I had this bitch and her friends laughing at me from the right. My 10, 11 o'clock asshole from 5th grade laughing at me from the left. And adjacent to me, real close, everyone's just staring at me. And I just felt all this energy just form around me. Meanwhile, me trying to like hold myself together, structured, no tears. And then I just remember all of those feelings coming down and just me swallowing it. And I remember just putting my head down, sinking, right? Just sinking into myself. I'm 5'6". I'm a tall girl. When I sink, it's noticeable. And I just remember looking down at my black shiny shoes while everybody laughed. And there was just something that I felt within me. The energy of the sadness, it settled down into my stomach. And then it just began to, it felt like it climbed up my spine. And that was the first time I ever felt rage. Like rage, but to the point where I wasn't going to lash out and attack kind of rage. But it was just like a sorrow and a rage. And in that moment, I planted a seed of hate and resentment towards those group of girls, specifically towards the leader and everything she was as a person. It just kind of defined everything when it came to Black American women. So all of the negative things that I've heard before, all those other seeds that were planted that never took root, that was the moment that those negative seeds took root in my 11-year-old psyche. Just, it's a heavy moment to go back and look at. And I was just thinking like, and I remember that being the year and the era. I'm like, you know what? Black Americans are stupid. You know what? They are uneducated. Finna. What is finna? I'm like, ew. You know? And then just all of these negative feelings and emotions buried down, you know? So with that being said, within that time frame, I stopped yearning for that sisterhood that I've been looking for. It was as if I was a young child running up to be embraced by my community, and my community slapped me in the face, dropped, kicked me down, spit on me. And you know what? Even though I was being bullied and taunted, you know, in different areas in life and by different types of kids, it was the Black girl that hurt me the most. Like, these white boys, these white girls could have called me the N-word to my face, but a part of me expected that, you know, based off of other things that I've experienced in life or were told. And, you know, history, hello, this is America, hello. But the fact that my sister that I've been looking for was the one who went out of her way to just belittle me, to beat me down, to try to break me instead of embrace me as your sister. That was just painful. And until this day, I still work on trying to heal that version of my psyche and like forgive, you know, at least forgive 100%. So with that being said, in that area, I was like, you know what? I'm done trying to yearn to find a Black sister or to find someone like me. I'm just going to go ahead and stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to, you know? Like, I've had little white girls who have befriended me. It was never the color of my skin. It was like, hey, my name is Valerie. Like, hey, my name is da-da-da. You know, and we were just friends. It was innocent. It was pure. And I was like, listen, I'm just going to hang out with who fucks with me and who's not making fun of me every 2 seconds, like where I can just exist. And I feel like this type of moment happens so much in our community when it comes to that Black on Black hate. And we really need to do better and work on that, you know? And I will go into this furthermore during Uncomfortably Black and even through playground politics. But, you know, that seed of resentment that I had for Black people, in fact, more so Black women, because it wasn't Black males attacking me in such ways. They did, though. I ain't gonna hold you now. I have my Uncomfortably Black story about the Black mans. Y'all ain't safe. However, this sisterhood, Black women, I was not checking for y'all. Like, I sound like I just check like I'm dating. But like, no, it's like I started, and you know what? With this seed of resentment that was planted that did not like Black American women, it's like that was a seed that was being nurtured by what I was experiencing, you know. However, it's like that's not a seed that could take root inside of me as a Black woman. Yes, I'm not Black American. I'm Haitian American. There is a slight difference. But at the end of the day, when you look at me, you don't know. You see a Black woman. So till this day, I know that that seed in that era of my life, that seed of resentment continued to grow until I met Leshell. Until this day, like, truth be told, Leshell is my first Black friend I had in life. True friend. The sister that I was yearning for, I found in Leshell, and that wasn't until 14. We were already in high school. So that kind of gives you an idea as far as how long these seeds of resentment were planted How long were these biases there until? And I think it's so interesting how the universe works when it brings people together. Because if you break down Leshelle's biological background, or, she fits the niche of someone whose family was from Belgrade, Pahokee. So the same exact seed that was planted to hate one, somebody else came to heal me from that. And I found sisterhood with Leshelle. And this is why I wanted to bring her on to discuss her Uncomfortably Black story, because she was the one who kind of ushered me out of my uncomfortability in the Black community. She was one of the first people until I met my mentor, who really just dug up that root and healed that energy in only a way like a mother or an elder could. So that being said, that is my prelude and my introduction to how I grew up uncomfortably Black. And when Leshelle pops on, because ideally Uncomfortably Black is her backstory. That comes from something that she experienced directly. And I can't wait for her to come on the podcast and tell you guys her origin story of Uncomfortably Black. But my side of it is I grew up yearning for Blackness, and I just never was accepted as being Black. Even as I started to have Black friends later on and just kind of assimilating into Black culture, it was hard to assimilate because a lot of the things culturally I just didn't do or wasn't aware of, I didn't listen to. I grew up in a Christian household where all I was allowed to listen to was church music and Disney music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to sneak and watch MTV with my brother, So there was a lot of polarities. It's very interesting. When I think about stories like this that biracial people go through, I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm not mixed, but I feel ya. So anyway, this is all to say, we plant some conscious seeds all throughout life. Seeds of bias and hatred will only poison the soil of your soul. So that being said, just love and light. All right. But thank you guys for listening again. This was another episode of Passenger Seat Parlay. I am your host, Valereywitha. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. If you went to Wellington Landing, share. If y'all could find me a 2002 yearbook, DM me. If y'all could find that hoe who used to bother me, tell her to @me. I would love to invite her to the Passenger Seat Parlay and tell her thank you for giving me the perfect name, Valerie with a V. I'm out. Bye.